Hello, subscribers. I was currently in the process of working on some new videos when something came along in my feed that I just had to drop everything and respond to it. Forrest Valkai has these videos that keep showing up in my feed. I have yet to watch any of his videos, but they're scientists reacts to videos. And at first the question is, what kind of scientist is he? It's a little suspicious that he just labels himself as a scientist instead of biologist. Why is it not biologist reacts? Because from another thumbnail I saw, he is a biologist, apparently, I guess. And I was eventually gonna do a video on him to something, but I just wasn't in a hurry until this video showed up. First, the thumbnail says, "We agree that faith is bad." So it seems clear he has been watching way too much R and Raw, because it seems like he most likely will have a very bad or conflicting view of the definition of faith. But the video he's responding to is Genesis Apologetics. I recognize the faces. This is from a series of videos that I really don't care for. It's this whole pretend to be a conversation, but it's scripted. Like, one person is making an argument, but the other person is also making the same argument, but they're having a conversation as if one person is teaching the other. We kind of saw the same thing with Little Light Studios when I did a response to their anime video. And it's just not a type of format that I like. But that being said, the information itself is still good. Now, all of this so far would have been fine. I could have still just skipped it and saved him for later. But the title of his video, Scientist Reacts to Natural Selection Debunked. That is not the name of their video. It is Evolution Debunked. I'm at least 90% certain they do not have a video called Natural Selection Debunked. And I'll double check that after I click on this video. So this seems very dishonest and something I want to respond to immediately. So I'm going to start watching the video and get back to you in a second. Okay, before I watch the video, he's got a copyright claim, and we can already see some hints about his personality and dishonest nature. At the end of this, he says, "Only a whiny baby or blithering idiot would copyright claim this video." This does not sound like somebody who's very confident, not very secure in his position, or maybe not secure in his livelihood, that he does this childish sentence about copyright claims. But also, I notice in his description, he's not giving a link to Genesis Apologetics video that he is supposed to be reacting to. Not off to a good start in terms of honesty or in terms of his confidence in his own position. Apparently he just doesn't trust people to go to the source. Oh, I wonder if he's gonna straw man. So first he spends about 2 minutes doing an ad read, then he watches a little of the video, then he does another 3 minutes to complain about one of the characters, whether or not he's actually blind. And he does it specifically as a form of mudslinging.
That's all that means. So this is just more of Genesis Apologetics continuing on their campaign to misrepresent the most basic concepts of science in order to prop up their ridiculous arguments. And now they're doing this whole campy bit about John not being able to see. And I get it. Like, I'm not trying to be a spoilsport here and try to just nitpick everything. I understand you can't see and you bump into something and it's funny. I get that. But the
Do you though? Because it kind of seems like you don't.
problem is, they started this video by saying that natural selection is blind. And I will bet $1 million that throughout this video, they're going to keep calling back to that, either by using the word blind as a continuing buzzword.
Yeah, but what does this have to do with your complaints about the Skit about their misrepresentation of how he became blind. Like really, who cares that they didn't actually blind the person in order to make their campy bit? We can all agree it's campy, but Forrest here is gonna keep beating this dead horse for no other reason than it's entertaining to have him constantly point out that the character is not actually blind or is supposed to be blind or whatever.
Evolution is a blind process, no offense.
Nah, you don't get to say no offense to the person who can very clearly see after you just got done making fun of blind people. Sorry, doesn't work that way, dude.
Supposedly have nothing to do.
Yes, it does. It totally works that way. You admitted it was campy. They don't need to be consistent about whether or not he's blind or not. That is just a illustration. Get over it. Okay, so his first major mistake is he hasn't seemed to have done his research on the history of eyes.
Very common misunderstanding when we talk about the evolution of complex structures like eyeballs or limbs or whatever. Our eyes didn't evolve from nothing right to where they are today. They didn't have to build up all the complex muscles and proteins or whatever else that's in them and just store them until they would eventually be useful at some point. That makes no sense. The overall step.
Yes, evolution makes no sense. Agreed. But you should look up the Cambrian explosion. All the eyes, well, hang on, he's got a picture.
Not that difficult. It's just a step-by-step process that takes a long time. And we can still see every single one of those stages in living animals today. Because again, they are all useful.
Yes, we can see them all today, and we can see them all in the fossils. Complex eyes have always been around. You don't have the luxury of this step-by-step process, which really doesn't even work in the way you're describing, but I would refer you to Standing for Truth for more info on the actual science of the matter. I am not a geneticist.
Exact way that they are, because they can only work the exact way they are in the current phase that they're in, and you're missing.
In the current phase they're in, what exactly is he trying to say there? Like, think about his eye argument. He seems to be contradicting himself. He said these things only work in the phase they're in, but when he wanted to explain eye evolution, he said it kept working in each phase. So which is it? Can it work in every phase or only in the current phase? Okay, I want you to pay attention to the next part. This is his next big mistake, and I think it's his biggest mistake in this whole video.
Is going to evolve because life is always evolving. We haven't hit the peak. Every single time a species reproduces, it is evolving and it's getting more interesting and more exciting.
See, he's equivocating on the word evolution, and he'll do this a lot more in this video when he complains that John and Jane, I think it was, that John and Jane keep defining evolution in order to disprove evolution. But they're not defining evolution. They're defining natural selection. And Forrest here keeps equivocating natural selection with evolution. At no point does he actually give a proper definition of evolution which he is consistent on. While John and Jane, on the other hand, actually seem pretty consistent with their definition. Basically, universal common descent. That would be evolution. Natural selection is not evolution. Saying natural selection is evolution is like saying the tires on my car are my car. If evolution were true, natural selection would only be a part of it. You can't say because natural selection, therefore evolution. This is one of the biggest mistakes all evolutionists make, and it is the biggest mistake made in this video.
So what are you going to say when we do eventually build a computer that's far more complicated than our own brains? What then?
Then we'll say it was designed. Are you going to say it's designed? No? Then move on.
Just because we haven't figured something out doesn't mean that it's magical.
Truly, technically it kinda does, depending on how you define magic. And you can easily define magic as anything you don't understand. My cell phone is magic. I have no idea how it works. I have a very basic understanding of certain aspects of it. But the rest of The rest is just magic. And if that's not how you define magic, then what way could you have been defining magic? That actually makes sense with the sentence you just said. Because John and Jane certainly didn't use the word magic.
Evolution doesn't need any foreknowledge of what it's trying to build because it isn't
Oh, you poor, deluded individual.
trying to build anything. It's just about what works in the moment, what helps any one individual survive and reproduce.
Which does not always work. John and Jane actually bring this up later, and the point goes completely over his head. But sometimes you just get lucky. Beneficial mutations are exceedingly rare if they happen at all, depending on how you define beneficial. Because there are still reductive mutations that are beneficial in the moment, which is what he's arguing for, but you lost information to get that benefit. But even if you have the benefit, you can still die by other means that are not related to the benefit you had. And then he tries to make a Lego analogy, which I'm not going to play because it's too long. But it's unclear whether his analogy is meant if the Legos are supposed to represent genes or physical traits. No, I think his Lego analogy, the bricks, are supposed to represent individual creatures. And if those Lego bricks have their nubs shaved off, they get thrown away. That creature is a mutant and no good. Same with any brick that has the whole side filled in. Degenerate mutant, thrown away. What he does not mention in his analogy, though, is that the vast majority of his Lego bricks would have their nubs shaved off or their holes filled in. He's not ever going to get a tower. It's not a very good analogy.
Without the proper genes for it. So yes, you need these microscopic changes in order to build big macroscopic changes. How else do you expect it to work? Magic?
So he agrees with John and Jane, but decides to go on this little rant to, I guess, try not to sound like he's agreeing with them too much. And again, the question is brought up, how are you defining magic?
Whole organisms. Kind of like me trying to help you pick out swatches that I can't even see.
You can freaking see, John!
Nobody cares, Forrest!
You ground here. A random event that kills random members of a population could have a variety of different effects, or no effect at all.
Like Forrest Valkai. Like Forrest Valkai doing a reaction video.
Two things. One, they're lying.
No, they're not. At best, they're just being not very careful with their wording. But they're not lying. Most, if not all, mutations are bad. And most, if not all, beneficial mutations are still reductive in nature. Standing for Truth has a lot of videos on this. I suggest, Forrest, if you watch this video, that you go to Standing for Truth and try to react to some of his videos.
Maybe we shouldn't be throwing around words like cleanse from the population, especially when we're talking about genes. It's kind of an unpleasant history with that sort of language.
Especially for the evolutionists.
They keep defining evolution and then saying that that's not evolution. And it's like they can't escape reality anymore, but if they can just convince enough people that blood isn't red, it's crimson, then we'll be having a totally different, pointless conversation until we all just get so frustrated that we forget what we're talking about and just go our separate ways.
Oh, the irony. Most of what he says really applies to himself. He keeps defining evolution as natural selection in order to say everything's evolution. That is not how it works.
Again, John just admitted that evolution works. Again, play that back.
And while lots of small mutations can give a survival advantage in specific environments,
lots of small mutations can give a survival advantage in specific environments. That's how evolution works.
But it's
That's
not evolution.
the whole point of evolution.
First of all, evolution does not work. Second of all, that's not evolution. Go back. Just
Video is literally saying, I know animals evolve, they just
no. They literally did not say animals evolve. You are switching the use of evolution. You are saying they evolve as in change over time in order to say they evolve as in descended from a common ancestor. You are playing word games rather than doing science.
don't evolve. What are we doing?
Evolutionists have tried to propose various genetic explanations.
For clarity's sake, there is one section where they talk about gene duplication, and I'm going to skip over that because, I don't know, I'll pass that one on to Standing for Truth, or pretty much anybody who discusses the science correctly.
It actually happened.
So, just so we're clear, you do not believe in a process that we can all literally watch happening.
We literally cannot. We have never seen a dog turn into a non-dog, or any other family turn into a different family, if that's the way you want to put it. Quit equivocating natural selection with evolution.
With our own eyes, because the countless, well-documented, direct observations
Of natural selection?
genetic changes in response to selection pressures,
Yeah, that's natural selection, not evolution.
both in the laboratory and out in the field, are just not sufficient evidence for you.
Not for
But
evolution.
you do believe in a supernatural entity that exists outside of the confines of space and time
Yes, because we have good evidence for him, which I won't waste time going into that in this video.
that created all life on this planet exactly as it is, just like that.
What do you mean exactly as it is? That's an iffy statement right there. Also, it took 6 days. It wasn't just like that.
Because you read about it in a book once.
Very trustworthy book. Yes. Where's your book that actually observed evolution?
Got it. Makes total sense.
Glad you agree.
So, a typical is already present. How could nature ever add information to some DNA by subtracting some of what is already there?
But you just explained that.
No, they didn't.
You said a typical mutation removes information.
Yeah.
Which, no, it doesn't, but whatever. That would mean that other mutations add information, right?
Wrong. It would imply the possibility that other mutations add information. But there's a third option you're skipping over, that other mutations don't add or subtract information. They could just change it or do nothing. Well, they probably don't do nothing, but they change it, and that change could be near neutral or degradatory, detrimental. That's the word. These changes could be neutral or detrimental, but what mutations have you seen that are actually beneficial and not reductive? Specifically, one that's actually new information, not information that's already been there.
The first question you've asked that's actually a question, and the answer is easy as crap. It's called chemical evolution, and you can do it in a jar.
Then do it.
Simple, naturally occurring molecules self-assemble into complex organic molecules under remarkably mundane conditions with impressive regularity all the time.
Move it.
We've found amino acids on asteroids in space. What, did your god start making life up there too, but he forgot what he was doing halfway through and gave up? Or did...
Whatever. That is a pretty bold claim to say that chemical evolution, abiogenesis, can just happen in the most mundane of circumstances. You're gonna have to show your work on that one. So, then, well, you can hear it yourself. How old is Forrest? Do they just give biology degrees to anybody? This is what biologists are doing nowadays, making fart videos.
Basically defined as a system of beliefs.
Right, so would evolution qualify as a religion?
Because, faith and belief and religion are all bad things.
When did they say that? You didn't even let them finish the point. Did they define evolution as a religion? I guess we'll never know, because he didn't even put the original video in his description. That's the word. So we'll never even know what video he was looking at. I mean, I could find it if I really wanted to, but it's not worth it.
Honestly, this is just the laziest argument of them all. They really can't see.
Was that an argument? I'm not entirely sure. You didn't even play enough of it for it to count as an argument. Well, I'm one to talk. Still.
See past their own nose to realize how quickly that's going to bite them in the butt. Because when they try to pull science down to their level and say that it takes faith and it doesn't have enough.
Everything takes faith. How are you defining faith? Don't use Aaron Ra's definition. Use an actual biblical definition.
Evidence and that it's just another religion. What they're.
They literally defined religion as a system of beliefs. No more, no less. It's actually a pretty broad definition.
Religion. What they're arguing is that faith is a bad thing, and that a religion can be easily dismissed, and that evidence is what's important. And
no, they did not make that argument at all. And I dare you to show it. Show them making that argument. Personally, I would not argue that evolution is a religion, but it is something you have faith in. Unfortunately, your faith, unlike ours, is blind. You have blind faith that evolution happened. Meanwhile, the young Earth creationists have observable, repeatable, testable evidence on their side. And the evolutionists have storytelling, equivocation, and fart music.
I think I was smart. I really want to jump into this again.
Wait, do you mean the solution is this?
Brain, do it. I don't know what I'm thinking, but it's not involving my brain. No, he got me! I'm so dumb! I'm so dumb! I am so dumb!
I can't tell if this is a soft lock and I need to restart. Oh, I can go down the pipe. I can go down. All right, we overcomplicated that one just a little bit, everybody.